Good evening, NAWBO sisters. Paula D'Amico here. Welcome to Monday Member Spotlight. And this evening we have a very special guest joining us today. We have Janna Willoughby-Lohr. Janna, it's so nice to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Janna is the owner and creator of Papercraft Miracles. So many exciting things happening for you. I can't wait to dig in and talk about it and see what's happening and where we need to look out for you next. But first, let's begin with a little chat about your business. So can you tell me a little bit about, tell our ladies a little bit about Papercraft Miracles, where it started, the idea, and how things have moved along for you right now?
All right. Well, it's kind of a long story, so I'll try to do the short version. Papercraft Miracles is an eco-friendly handmade paper art company, and we make magical things out of paper that make people happy and bring meaning to people's lives, which is super, super awesome to be able to do something that I love so much as my job. I came up with the idea while I was a freshman in college. I originally went to college because I wanted to be a poet and a writer. And as soon as I got there, I knew that I had to create more. So I started looking at the different art classes that they offered at the school. And they had all of these book arts classes to learn to bind books and make handmade paper. And I'd always done collaging and made my own journals as a kid and as a teenager. So I was like, okay, well, I want to learn how to do that for real. So I started taking those classes and I just fell in love with it immediately. And at the end of that year, I went and met with my college advisor and I said, these are all the classes I took this year. What major am I working towards? And he goes, those are all electives, so nothing.
Oh,
right?
Oh, man.
And I was at school on a scholarship and my mom had like no money and I was living 5 states away. And I was like, I cannot afford to have wasted an entire year of school. I can't. And I said to the advisor, like, what should I do? And he had the best answer ever. He said, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. Instead of just telling me to go major in communications and figure it out later. And I said, well, I love making paper. I love making these books. I love doing poetry and music and sharing with people. And I want to use my creativity as my career. And I don't want to be broke. How do I do that? And he said, you should do that as your major. And I was like, what are you talking about, crazy man? That's not a major. And he said, we have a major called Integrative Studies here where you can make up your own major. And you already know what you want to do. You know where you want to go. So you should make up your own major and do that. So I did. I made up a major that was called Entrepreneurial Creative Business Arts. And I put entrepreneurial business and creative art integrated together as one major. And by the time I graduated, I had come up with a business name and built a website on Angel Fire, because this is a really long time ago, in 2004. I had a little catalog, a little print catalog that I'd made. And when I graduated college, I had a business. And I started making things for my friends and family when they got married and had babies and stuff like that. And it sort of snowballed from there. And I did it as a part-time side gig for about 12 years. And after I had my first son, the job that I was working at didn't pay me enough to afford healthcare and daycare. So I quit and to stay home with my kid and to work on growing my business. So I built a new website and rebranded, and I was home with a little baby. So I was like, how can I expand my network and actually grow this business when most of the time I'm home with a little baby by myself? So I joined NAWBO, and it was really awesome to have access to this amazing group of all of these type A boss women who have had their businesses for so long, who are like, a lot of the members at the time were so successful and just had so many tips and resources to share with me. And my business took off pretty fast and I had to start paying for childcare anyway. And yeah, over the couple of years since then, I joined in 2016. But since then, I have won one of the Ignite Buffalo Small Business Grants in 2018. And that allowed me to hire my first employee and expand into our studio space that we're in now. And in 2019, I got awarded 40 Under 40 for stationery and gifts from Stationery Trends magazine, which was really cool. And yeah, then, we'll talk more about 2020, but 2020 was crazy, obviously for everyone. but we ended up getting a contract to make flowers for Twitter to send to their VIP clients in 2020. And then in 2021, early this year, we landed this ginormous contract as a partnership with a toy company to produce seed bombs that were just in those piñatas they gave away for free at Lowe's last week. It was
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It is
crazy. Literally, business has literally exploded for you. And, you know, and it all started back. What great advice that your college counselor said, your college advisor said to you was, you know, that question that I think a lot of business women, when they are teetering between, should I leave my corporate job and start my own business, or should I stay where I'm at? It's what do you love to do? What do you want to do? Where is your heart at? And obviously you followed your passion, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So what would your advice be to maybe some of the business women out there now that are saying to themselves, well, I'm really passionate about this, but I'm not quite sure if I want to take that leap?
I really, really, really wish that I had quit my job before I had kids. And I know that it sounds crazy, but I mean, at the time I quit my job because I thought that I had to, because my job was not going to work with me on working from home, and I didn't have enough money to pay for childcare. But I was always worried about thinking, how could I afford to do this full time and not have a paycheck and not have a job? And, you know, once I quit my job, and it wasn't all that difficult for us to figure out how to live on one income for a while. I mean, it was difficult on my marriage and our relationship to figure out what was expected of each party and, you know, that kind of thing. But financially, you know, I wasn't driving as much. I mean, it cut down on a lot of expenses when I wasn't going to work. And I wish that I had known that it was possible to believe that we could afford it before we had to. Because obviously after we had a kid, we had tons more expenses than we did before I had a kid, and we managed to do it then. I really just wish I had done it earlier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Having children is quite as much as we love our children, it is an additional fiscal burden for sure. Yeah. I don't know if I want to say burden. It's just a responsibility, not necessarily a burden. That is for sure.
And as far as like what to consider when you're going to quit your job, I mean, whatever you want to focus your energy on, like whatever you're passionate about, you want it to be something that fulfills you enough to justify taking time away from your kids and your family to do that thing. And that's partly why I ended up quitting my job in the first place and not trying to figure out some way to just put my kid in daycare and keep working there. I said, if I'm going to be away from my kid, I want to be doing what I love and not doing somebody else's work that they love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you touched on it just a little while ago. When you took that leap, you started your business. Before we go any further, because now I'm sure the ladies and gentlemen that are watching are saying, this sounds absolutely amazing. I want in on that. I know the perfect person that could definitely use a gift from Papercraft Miracles. Where do they find you, Janna?
Well, you can shop on our website at papercraftmiracles.com. And we mainly do custom orders, but we do have pre-made things that are in our shop. So if you want to buy those, you go in the shop menu. If you want a custom order, go onto the custom orders page. There's separate pages for all the different kinds of things we do, and you can book an appointment right there.
Sounds pretty easy. I know exactly where you are. So pretty accessible location. She's right on Niagara Street. But let's pivot back to NAWBO for just a moment, because you've been a member of NAWBO for several years now. And you and I have had several conversations, and I think you and I have had that same feeling when you walk into that NAWBO room for the first time and you go, wow, that energy is like, it's so palpable, and you're like, I want in on that immediately. What was your first encounter with NAWBO?
The first NAWBO event I went to was Each One Reach One in 2016. My tenant, Sue Ellen Elvers, who was on this last week, she had been a member of NAWBO for a couple of years at that point, and she said, I know the place that you need to go and the people you need to meet. And she brought me as her guest to each one. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, oh, I got my people. Because I had been working on growing this business for a really long time at that point, just kind of doing craft shows here and there. And it was my side gig. And most of the people that I knew in my circle were fellow artists and crafters, most of whom don't know crap about running a business at all. Like, they just make stuff and put it out there and hope they don't, come home with less money than they started with because they bought everything from everyone else. So a lot of times when I would try to ask advice from the people that I already knew about growing a business, most of them didn't know any of the answers. Because they had like this art background, but no business background. And a lot of the business owners that I knew weren't in the spaces where I was trying to network. And so once I went to NAWBO, I was like, oh my God, there's all these amazing women who have so much experience in businesses that are not anything like mine. But they have all these connections and resources and knowledge that the people in my network that I had at the time would never, ever have access to. And so being in this room full of all these amazing women who are just doing it every day, like out there and succeeding and learning and sharing with each other, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to all of these. Those are my people. It was great.
And not only are you a member, but for the past few years, you've also been our membership chair as well. So you've really been the cheerleader for NAWBO out there in the streets of Buffalo, and trying to bring in new membership and bring in sisters and welcome them and introduce them to the sisterhood as well. Let's go ahead a little bit, or shall I say, I'm going to go back in time over the past year, and let's talk about the pandemic, because every woman that I've talked to over the past few months has had a pandemic story, a pandemic pivot, or just a survival mode. Or so when the pandemic hit, how did things change for you? How did they change for your business?
Well, pre-pandemic, I would say that 60 to 70% of the business that we did at Papercraft Miracles was for weddings and events. So March 2020 was like a huge crap show of like,
oh my God,
what do we do? Because obviously no one was booking a wedding or event, and everyone was canceling all of their weddings and events that we were supposed to do. And my assistant at the time got another full-time job because she was only working for me part-time. And so all of a sudden I had this business that had been having the best quarter ever. I mean, the beginning of 2020, the first 2 months of it anyway, I'd made 50% of 2019's revenue in 2 months. And so I was like really excited about this momentum that we had going. And then all of a sudden it was back to just me, and all of my business was like about to dry up. And I'm like, oh no, like that can't happen. And my husband's company was closed because they at first were not deemed essential either. And since he also owns a business, I was really worried that he wasn't going to be able to get unemployment, because prior to the pandemic, if you owned a business, you couldn't get unemployment.
Right.
So I was really, really worried that our breadwinner was about to totally dry up, and I was going to have to like support our family with this, where all of my business was about to disappear. And so I ended up, instead of saying, let's try to figure out a way for people to still do like online weddings or whatever, I took a step back and I started thinking about what do the people of like, what does my clientele really need right now? And I was like, everyone is starving for some kind of tangible connection, because everything instantly went online. Everyone is so far away from each other. Even people who lived a couple doors down, like you literally can't go see them, and everyone was afraid. And I was like, I know how to connect people. I know how to make something really special and send it to someone else, and have the person who gets it know immediately who it came from and what it means. And to have that thing be kind of like a permanent thing that shows up in their house, that every time they see it, they feel the energy that was made when I made it, the energy that was put into it by the person who sent it to them. And I know the power of that tangible connection to change somebody's life forever. And that's why I started my business in the first place. Way back when I was in college, I was struggling through a lot of traumatic events. I lost my mother, my dorm burnt to the ground, all in the span of a couple of months. And I started this business after making a bunch of artist books to help people understand what I was feeling and my grief and my trauma and how I was making my way through the world after that. And I just knew that that's what I had to offer people, was a way to connect in this craziness and a way to heal with each other through making art and sharing it with each other. So I immediately pivoted all of my marketing, which was obviously not paid marketing, but put my posts on Facebook and saying like, hey, you know, I'm not going to pretend everything is great, but you know, if you want to connect with somebody, that's my jam. And our business just blew up like crazy. And all the flower, we make paper flowers here too. And all the flower shops were closed and nobody could get flowers, but people were still having funerals. And they're like, how am I supposed to send flowers to this person, you know, whose family member passed away? And I can't go to the funeral because they're only allowed to have 2 people there. And what are we going to do? And I literally had blisters on my fingers from making paper flowers long into the night, every single night. I mean, I was so busy working all by myself, 12 to 15 hours a day, every day, making things. And tons of people we've had more orders on our website since the shutdown last March than I did in the 4 years it was open before that combined.
That's incredible.
It was crazy. I mean, somehow through pointing my intention with my business to something that was missing from a lot of people's lives and kind of filling that space that people needed, like a way to feel like it's okay to celebrate. And it's still okay to, you know, send love to your loved ones and to find a way to be connected instead of, you know, thinking about the despair of how crazy the situation was for everyone, but to figure out a way to just be there.
Right. It's all about that, bringing that, delivering that hope and light. And the fact that you said to yourself, you kind of like jumped back a second and you said, now, what is it that my people, what is it that my peeps need, that my customers and clients need, and let me pivot and change to that, speaks volumes to your business and the fact that you were willing to make that pivot because of the pandemic, and it came back like over and over and over again, incredibly, and just and your business has just exploded. Yeah. So what is next for Janna Willoughby-Lohr and Papercraft Miracles? Because I don't know, where have you thought about maybe another new direction? Are you staying in this direction?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm always going to have an aspect of my business that does custom gifts like that. Because that's really what I was founded on, is like really making something that somebody says, that's unbelievable. You know, like I really love that part of it. The deeper meaning behind what I'm making, and being really intentional about putting my love and my energy and my good intentions into the work and then sending it out into the world so that can affect other people. So I know that that's kind of like the overarching message behind everything that we do here. And I mean, since we just completed this huge job, where we had a team of like 70 people. If you want to go see Paula's cool video that she put out, go check that out. From Channel 7, to learn a little bit about the story of our crazy giant job, where we had this huge staff full of people. But after that job was over, it was like the ride of a lifetime. I worked my butt off, literally. I lost like 15 pounds doing that job. But I managed to keep 2 of the employees. So now I have a team of 4 plus myself. And then I have 2 independent contractors. So my business is certainly growing, seeing as 2018, I had 1 part-time staff member, and now I have 5. And we've got a lot of things on the horizon. Like I kind of feel like I'm right at the edge of this precipice where my little craft business that was a couple of years ago, I was, making the bulk of my income at a couple of different craft shows by Christmas. And now, I mean, my average order when I joined NAWBO was $11. Now my average order is $200. So
quite a jump.
It's made a huge difference that like I've gotten to the point where I can be more selective about the jobs that I want to take. I don't have to take every job that comes to the door. And I get to only work on the things that I want to work on, which is great. So we're working on developing like a new product line. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but
Keep it up.
like it's a totally new thing for us. Which could potentially be like a game changer, kind of like an offshoot of the company. And I have some other really cool publicity type things in the works right now. And yeah, we're taking custom orders at the moment for the most part. And Mother's Day flowers.
Let's talk about that change, because I'm sure a lot of ladies can relate to this, or maybe this gives them some hope and initiative to move forward and expand their own business. So for quite a while there, it was Janna working solo. Then you brought in a part-timer, and now you have a staff. How has life changed, other than the fact that you can be more selective about taking orders and what you're doing for people? How has life changed for Janna Willoughby-Lohr now that you have a staff?
It's really been interesting because I made this crazy overnight jump from a team of me with 2 part-time assistants to this giant team of 70 people all working on one big project to, now we're back to just a couple people. So on the giant team, it was a whole different ballgame. But since we were all working on the same project and everybody sort of already knew their place and knew what they were supposed to do after the first couple of days, there wasn't as much kind of hands-on management and planning of what I had to tell people to work on every day, because everybody was doing the same thing every day for the whole job, because we were making 500,000 of seed bombs, and it was all the same type of work. So since then,
I still can't get over that 500,000.
500,000. We made
so crazy.
1,000,000 of it's so
if
crazy.
I didn't see it myself, I almost would not believe it.
It was an intense month for sure. But since then, I've had this kind of back of my mind to-do list. Like someday when I have enough people and enough time, these are some things I really want to work on developing. So now that I have a team and have afforded to expand to the other side of the wall of our storefront, so now we've more than doubled our studio storefront space. So we actually set up a new in-person shopping area, which is really cool. So if you would like to make an appointment to come shop in person, make an appointment on our website and come check out our new shopping area. You can't see right now, but it's on the other side of the wall. It's really beautiful. So my staff moved all of our merch and set it up over there. It's like a little mini Rove. If you ever been to Rove, it's very cute. I think Jack will like it. So we have expanded workspace. We've been kind of going through all of our inventory and all the materials and kind of reorganizing the studio to make it really useful for all of the people that work here. I have been kind of step-by-step training the new people how to make a lot of the things that we do here, so that I can say, okay, we got this job on deck. You guys go make this paper or go make these seed bombs. And a lot of the things that we do as far as making hand-bound books and paper flowers, there's a lot of training that's involved in making those. So you can't just show somebody how to make them overnight and then just, kind of put them out on their own, oh, you go for it. So I've been putting budgeting aside to really training them how to do that. So we've been doing those kind of things, and then working on developing new products and condensing the materials we have. So we're probably going to have not necessarily like a fire sale, but kind of like a Papercraft Miracles yard sale for art supplies and things, because there's a lot of stuff that we just have extras of. That I think other artists and creatives might be able to make use of. Lots of cool paper scraps and extra tools and things that we just have extras of. So we're kind of getting the studio very streamlined so that we can set up our processes, so we can have like a front desk where someone comes in and answers the phone and like does that. Because right now the only phone for Papercraft Miracles is my phone. And I know that like to sustain growth of the company, it can't always be me answering the phone. You know what I mean? And so I'm anticipating that, fingers crossed, this potential publicity thing I have in the works, which I don't want to jinx or talk too much about, but it would be like it would bring a lot of publicity to my company. So I'm really working to lay the groundwork for my staff to be able to answer the emails and give estimates on orders and do a lot of things when I am not physically present in the office. Because if this happens, I'm going to be like out of the office for a little while. And I need people to hold it down in my company when I'm not here. So I'm kind of training them, not necessarily to take over for me, but to be able to like keep it going so that I can go out and do more things like I'm hopefully going to do.
Well, it sounds super exciting, and we can't wait to hear what the future holds for Janna Willoughby-Lohr and Papercraft Miracles. We still have about 4 minutes left, and I want to talk briefly, if we can, talk about being a woman in business. Every woman that I sit down and I speak with, I chat with, always is able to share a hurdle and a victory. So what do you think maybe one of the biggest hurdles that you've had to overcome as being a woman in business?
Just one?
I know there's so many.
Man.
Maybe the biggest one.
I would say the biggest one that is consistently showing up no matter what I do are doubts and negative criticism on what I'm trying to do from men. Since the minute I decided I was going to start a business when I was 19 years old, aside from my advisor for the most part, it's almost always been men saying that's not possible. You're never going to make money making everything by hand. You're never going to make a profit. It's never going to happen. Or why do you want to make paper? Why do you want to make journals? At the time when I first started the company, Facebook wasn't a thing. Social media wasn't a thing. The Kindle had just come out. E-Vites had just come out. And so many people have said, no one is going to write in a journal ever again. No one's going to write letters. No one's going to send invitations. It's all going to be online. All books are going to be ebooks. Why would you ever want to do that? It's never going to happen. And so being able to be a resilient woman who can hear criticisms like that and hear doubts like that and be like, you're wrong. I don't care what you say. Mm-hmm. I know that this is important. I know that this reaches people in a way that an e-vite never will. And you can go ahead and be like enamored with the newness of technology. And yes, has technology taken over our life? Of course it is. We're talking on a computer right now. And I'm very grateful to have a connection like this, to have social media come up, because I wouldn't have been able to grow my business the way that I did without it. But just being able to overcome those negative criticisms of like the naysayers and Debbie Downers who are, or Dougie Downers, right. It's usually men. Even after going to so many NAWBO events for so many years, I pretty much consistently went to women's networking events once I joined NAWBO, and even other networking groups that were pretty much all women, like women business owners, because when you go and you're in a room full of women business owners, they support each other. They're excited about each other's businesses. And I went to a networking event right before everything shut down that was co-ed. And it was the first co-ed in-person event I've been to in ages, like years. And I walked in the door and I was talking to this guy and saying, hey, this is the business that I have and this is what we do. And the first words out of his mouth are, you'll never be able to make that much per year if you make everything by hand. You're never going to be able to make a profit. And he says this right to my face. First of all, it's rude. Second of all, he was so ignorant. And I looked him right in the face and I said, I've made a profit every year since I was 22 years old, when I graduated college and started my business. So why don't you just back up? Because you don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Just out of curiosity, did he offer a suggestion on what you could do?
Oh, he totally said that I need to not make everything by hand and like make
And
a
that
factory.
was it. And then it was like a mic drop.
Yeah, you know that whole premise that your entire business is built on? Like, screw that. You should do what I want to do. It's funny because I actually had the perfect shirt on for that yesterday. This is the mansplaining free zone. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And so, I mean, I guess as far as being a women business owner, like that is the hardest thing to overcome, is the stereotype that men think they know business better than women. And that they consistently believe that women are not capable of being boss as hell, which is so wrong. Like,
right.
Women are so much better at collaborating and working together and asking other people for help and multitasking and taking care of children while running businesses at the same time. And like, my husband is awesome, but he also has all these preconceived notions about what is expected of me during my day, because I'm technically the stay-at-home mom, even though I work for myself. And, you know, like, I think consistently changing the perception of, yes, I'm a mother. No, I'm not responsible for 100% of running the kids' lives and the household. You know, like, we have kids. Some of that responsibility is on you too, you know? And I think just breaking those stereotypes is just so important. And, you know, obviously there's mom guilt. Every mom has mom guilt. Right. Dad guilt's not a thing. You know, nobody makes the dad feel like crap for going to work ever. And that is going to consistently be something that's really difficult, because if you're a woman that has a job, any job, then you're made to feel like you're not as good of a mother because you're not with your kid all the time and you're not 100% focused on making their life amazing every minute. And if you're a woman who, quote unquote, just stays home with the kids, then you don't contribute financially to your household. So then you're like a crappy partner or a crappy wife. If you're not, you know, if your house isn't spotless and you don't have perfect Pinterest meals on your table every day, and you don't fold all the laundry and hand make all the Halloween costumes and like all of that stuff that's expected of women. And then if you're, you know, a woman that runs your own business while you're at home, a lot of the times with the kids, you're constantly distracted, constantly. You know, you're trying to make food for the kids, but someone's calling the business phone or sending an email, or you got to check that Facebook message or write an estimate for somebody. And so then you get this kind of blowback on, you know, you're not as focused at work and you're not as focused at home 100% of the time.
So endless hurdles for not just a woman in business, but for a mother in business as well. Let's talk about, because we're pretty much out of time, but I want to hear what, you know, if I ask you what your biggest victory has been since being in business. I mean, we've talked about all the great things that have happened and transpired over the past, you know, multiple years here. But what is the one thing that's stood out for you?
I mean, for sure, getting that huge job this year was a big game changer for me. I've put every dollar that I made in this company back into it until I landed this big, huge contract. And it was an insane thing to say yes to. When somebody calls you and says, can you make $500,000 of something? And you say yes. And, you know, kind of jump to rise to the occasion and do that. It was the kind of turning point in my business where my husband didn't think I could do it. And it had been tough for me to not pay myself and to take every dollar that I made and put it back into my business for 5 years. Like, I didn't have a paycheck. And that was really difficult for me to not feel super guilty when I went and bought myself some clothes or whatever, because I felt like I wasn't putting money in our bank account. You know what I mean? Because I knew that putting my money back into the company, if we could still pay our bills and I could do that, that was going to be the best way to grow the company without getting a ton of debt. And getting this huge job, I made my husband's annual salary in profit in one job, in 1 month.
That's incredible.
And, you know, like, ever since I did that job, I put myself on the payroll. and I have paid myself a paycheck that's as big as his paycheck every single week.
Huge victory.
Huge victory.
I would say huge victory.
Right.
And somebody that we know, right?
All the years of struggle and the sacrifice and the sweat equity that I put in, you know, like if I were to have paid myself per hour for the 5 years that I have really devoted myself to growing this company, you know, who knows how much sweat equity I have at this point. But after so many years of naysayers saying that's never going to happen, and like it drains you. It's hard to like get up every day and be like, oh, I know it's going to happen, but when is it going to happen? I'm like, keep looking at my watch and then be like, oh, it's here now. You know, it has happened. I was right. It did work.
Oh my God.
And now what? And now what? Like, it's like every day.
It seems like the possibilities are endless. And so we are out of time, my dear friend Janna. We could sit and talk here for probably hours.
I know.
But I'm going to say that, ladies, for those of you that are watching, you know, NAWBO has certainly been instrumental in supporting Janna, whether it is the NAWBO sisters coming to help you and support you, or just phone calls, or you supporting them. Janna has offered some incredible advice about following your passion, creating your own path, and taking it to the next level, and being able to do that, whether pandemic or not, creating that own pivot so that you grow your business, and you never know what will happen, and to embrace it all and celebrate it all. So Janna Willoughby-Lohr, just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. We love you so, and we wish you much continued success. And we can't wait to hear what's around the corner. So again, lady friends, this is NAWBO Sisters. This is Monday Member Spotlight. We come live to you every Monday at 6 o'clock, sharing with you a little bit more about your NAWBO sisters, the business women of Western New York, their paths of success, and a little bit of advice as well, their hurdles, their victories. We thank you so much for joining us. You have a wonderful evening, and join us again right here live on Facebook next Monday evening at 6 o'clock. Thanks again. And thank you, Janna.
Bye. Thank you.